Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another part of why we play the game. Today being Halloween, I thought I'd regale you with a story, a frightening story that I have noticed developing in the gaming community, as it were. Something that terrifies me to my very core. Shall we begin? Once upon a time, in any town across the globe where games were played, there existed an entity known as the Killer DM, a dungeon master or game master who would not hesitate to kill a player character, or, more frightening yet, to wipe out an entire party through overwhelming odds, horrendously clever, wicked traps, or just good old-fashioned player character foolhardiness. Once upon a time, players lived in fear of losing their beloved character. Sometimes to no fault of their own, but more often not by making a crucial error, a misstep, or just underestimating the bad guys. Unfortunately, those days seem to be long gone. A mere memory, legends of the past. Now we are faced with, unfortunately, a fate worse than death. The, the, the fate of the loss of challenge, the lack of risk, the lack of player character death. Now, I did a two-part series a few months back about why player characters need to die. And unfortunately, it fell on, for the most part, deaf ears. I've noticed that just seems to be completely taboo these days. Player characters can't die. The risks completely evaporated into the ether. No longer are there challenges and fear and trepidation. The risk of player character death seems to have completely vanished from the gaming arena. Not everywhere, not completely, I suppose. There are still places where that's a possibility, and I hope to encounter them in the games that I've been invited to. And I'm not throwing any shade on any particular GMs that are inviting me into or I should say, their games. I'm having a lot of fun in the games that I'm playing in, and those risks are still there, at least in spirit. The doubt is still there for the most part. I'm not 100%. There are times where I've thought that was just not going to happen for whatever reasons. The parties are at a certain point where they can afford the magics and the costs of bringing characters back. But out there in the gaming community, I've noticed and watched where that opinion just seems to be, like I said earlier, taboo. Player characters can't die. For whatever reason, I've gone into that ad nauseum in my why player characters must die segments not last month, but the month before. And it's truly, for me, a fate worse than death, a fate of forgotten challenges, missed opportunities, and just the thought or the notion that our characters just are beyond the point where they can die. Maybe they will die temporarily, but they'll be allowed to come back with literally no consequences. And for me, that's just not fun anymore. I long for the opportunity to die a glorious death in battle at every opportunity that I play. There have been a couple of games I've played recently that I could actually feel my body going through the motions of the increased adrenaline, the sweaty palms and the fear that my wonderful character would be snuffed out at the hands of some foe or another, a trap or just circumstances beyond my control. And that's why I play the game. I want to risk death. I want to have a chance to fail. I want a chance to rise above the challenge, to accept the consequences of my actions, to have the chance of death, to maybe have to roll up another character. I was in a game long ago with a new group of players, and I rolled up literally 5 new characters in the course of an afternoon of game playing. And by the end of that session, I had rolled up 3 clerics out of the 5 characters I had to roll up, because of the harsh fact that the only way I was going to survive was to be able to heal myself with a Cure Light Wounds or 3 during the course of that adventure. And by the end of that day, I walked away with 5 deceased characters. Another game I played prior to that, I lost 4 or 5 other characters that were all incredibly well played characters that had risen to levels beyond that of 7th to 9th level. I lost them all. The only one that made it out was one of my favorite characters, a bard of old from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, who was a 7 or 8th level fighter, 6th or 7th, maybe 8th level thief, and I believe 6th or 7th level actual bard, only to be cut down by an undead, only to rise again as another form of undead. A literal Eddie from Iron Maiden, a bard who would roam the countryside singing dirges and songs of tragedy across the planet, to be feared and reviled, and occasionally appreciated for the heavy metal music he would play. But that's a story for another day. I miss those days. I miss them a lot. I miss the opportunities, the actual thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I miss them a lot. And I hope that those of you that are watching, especially those game masters out there, will remember that that's why we play the game. We play it to overcome the challenges that are out there that our game masters set before us. And hopefully you'll take a little from this video and not be afraid to kill the player characters off, not intentionally, not maliciously, not as the killer DMs of old that were the adversaries of the players, instead of rooting for the players while pitting them against challenges worthy of a song, instead of those other kinds of killer DMs that went after the players with every trick up their sleeve, trying to destroy the party and destroy the players' hopes of ever playing a fair game again. Don't do that. That's just wrong, and that just defeats the purpose. If you want to play a game like that, there are games out there where it's DM versus players. Hero Quest comes to mind. My son absolutely delights in the opportunity to kill my Hero Quest characters off, and he's managed to kill one of the 4 off from time to time. But I get to come back and make up new characters and sally forth into the Hero Quest dungeons once again, trying to beat the challenges. But that's a fair game. That is a game designed to allow the DM to play upon those urges to wipe out a player character party in fair combat with fair rules. But in a role-playing game, that's just not fair. It's just not right. Again, don't do it. Be better than that. And by better than that, I mean be willing to not pull back the punches, not to offer up resurrections and reincarnations and raised deads and miraculous twists of fate where the players survive every single challenge they come across. I hope that you will go forth on this day, that being Halloween, and remember, it's the challenge. It's the risk of death. It's the risk that make the game worth playing. I don't know about you, but that's what I look forward to. And hopefully there'll be some dungeon masters out there that will lay my characters low. Will put an end to their adventuring, but allow them to not be forgotten. There are so many great stories where a hero will sacrifice himself, will offer up his life for his friends, his comrades, so that they may survive and fight another day, but never forget how Boromir redeemed himself, put his life up on the altar so that those two little hobbits might survive, to make up for his misdeeds and to die a true hero. That's what it's all about. Living forever, it's not for me. It's not for most of us, because it's really never going to happen for us here on Earth. Maybe someday in the future we'll find ways to finally defeat death for once and for all. But until then, I look forward to those tales of my fellow gamers of how they lost their favorite character, but in the end achieved some greater good for the story that was the game that they were in. And I hope you guys will get to know that satisfaction, that indescribable feeling of having given it your all and still met the Grim Reaper on your feet, blade in hand, war cry on your lips, but ready to take the ultimate plunge. Until then, folks, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween. I hope you guys will enjoy this day and remember those games of old, and throw them in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to share those tales of how we tried our best, but in the end, no one gets out alive. And I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to share those stories. I have more to share with you guys on this topic of killer dungeon masters. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween. Until next time, happy trails.